Hey, everybody. Welcome to another show of Stronger and Better. We run a little behind. We had some technical problems, but we are on the air. So glad to have everybody here with us. So please bring your comments. Let us know that you're here. Uh, Let me know. Say hello. Let me know that you're coming in. We just want to give it a few minutes to get people coming in. I already see people starting to log on to another show. So please let us know you're here. Say hello to me. Y'all say hello. We got an exciting show. We're going to talk about money today. What's up, Brandon? What's going on, man? You always like the first one on. I appreciate that, man. Love you, man. Appreciate that. So we got other people coming in. Y'all make sure y'all give me some comments. Say hello. Let us know. We got one of my friends that's going to be on here. We got Classy on here. What's up? Good morning. Good morning. Who else is coming on? Just want to say hello to everybody. We are coming on for another segment of Stronger and Better. And we're going to be talking finances, y'all. You know, when we talk money, we got to get our money right. We're living in a time and a era when we definitely got to make sure that we're staying ahead of the game on our finances. I'm seeing more coming in. Please, please, please let me know that you're here. What's up, Paula? What's going on? I hope you're doing good today. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. We got my auntie on the line. What's up, auntie? What's going on? I love you, sweetheart. Love you. Love you so much. What's going on? Mr. Green is in the house. I got a meeting with you in a few minutes right after this show. So I look forward to doing that. But come on, y'all. Y'all say hello. And like I said, we got an exciting show. We're going to be getting going in 1 minute. Sorry for being a little tardy today. Like I said, we had some technical problems, but we got it together finally. Good morning. Good morning. Glad to have you with us this morning. But I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and start and get started as people are coming in. I want to introduce my friend Toni. What's going on, Toni? How are you?
Hello. I am well. How are you?
That's good. That's good. We got people coming in. Robin just said good morning. Good morning, Robin, Willie, and what's going on? We got Miss Porter in the house. What's going on, y'all? I'm glad to see all y'all this morning. We got an exciting show. We're gonna be talking about money, y'all. Money talks. Money talks. So, like I said, I got my childhood friend Toni here, and it's funny. I was thinking this morning, Toni. It's funny how you meet people early in life, and you never know how your relationships are going to be and how they turn out, and how people bless each other. And Toni has been a blessing in my life for over the years, and now she manages my money. Oh Lord, yeah. So I have a high respect for Toni and high respect for what she does and how she does it. She's very wise and she's very in tune into what's going on in the market. So I'm excited for everybody to hear what she has to say today about money, and we're gonna have you ask your questions. We want you to engage. Please ask as many questions as you want. You know, we're going to be on the air for the next 45 minutes or so, no more than an hour. So ask your questions about finances, about getting ahead, retirement. Toni is an expert in this field. She works for Edward Jones, but I'm going to let her introduce herself. Toni, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do. Tell us.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Leroy, for having me here. I am a licensed financial advisor. I manage uh, millions and millions of dollars for a lot of different people over across about 15 different states. I am really passionate about, helping people create and build wealth, and
Yeah,
also to leave a legacy to your grandkids, because that is truly a biblical principle.
yeah,
And I'm also really passionate about our demographic, because we are so far behind when it comes to wealth creation. So really, nothing has changed the past 50 years.
yeah,
Even though we have acquired more in income, our net worth it continues to decline year after year. And so I'm really passionate about what I do every day, and then also philanthropically helping people increase your financial literacy so that you can, make better decisions. I have been in this field for over a decade now. And so again, I enjoy what I do. every single day. So I'm glad to be here. And please, as Leroy said, there is no question that is dumb. So what
Mhm.
I find is a lot of times when it comes to money, especially in our demographic, we sometimes feel like I don't want to ask that question because it might be a dumb question or I'm afraid to ask that question. And honestly, the question that you probably have, tons of people have the same question. And
Tons of
so we
people.
have to get out of that mindset of being afraid to ask the question, because we only are built up and edified by our knowledge, and power comes through what
Yeah.
you know and applying what you know every single day. So again, I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you here. Like I said, I'm excited to have Toni. Now, I want to go ahead and get the conversation started just in terms of so people understand money. And many people they use money, but they don't understand money. And there's an art to balancing your checkbooks. There's an art to assets and liabilities. So if you can kind of give us just a quick overview on maybe assets, liabilities, and kind of budgets and how we
Yeah,
should manage these things.
yeah. So management of money, again, it's one of those areas where people don't like to really engage in. Whenever I have a new client or a new family to come to my office, the first thing I ask for is a budget.
Yeah,
And they're like, a budget? Like, why do I need a budget? A budget is so important because until you know where you are, it's really hard to figure out where you're going. And
yeah,
so your budget is your vision. And the Bible talks about without a vision, we perish. And so in the financial world, your budget is your vision. And your budget is going to tell me where how you spend your money. And a lot of times we don't want to share the budget because our spending is so off. It's like,
yeah.
well, do I really have to tell you where the money? Yes,
And a
yes,
lot of people are embarrassed because they don't spend their money the right way.
exactly. I mean,
Yeah,
you will be amazed at how much money you spend on just dining out. And we really don't know the numbers because
yeah,
no one is really tracking it.
yeah,
No one is tracking what they spend every day. And so
yeah,
I always admonish people to take 30 days, pretend you haven't had a conversation with me, and just
yeah,
track what you spend every day so that you'll know where you are. And your budget consists of those things that you spend every day. So your mortgage, your rent,
yeah,
your utilities.
yeah,
Those are all things that are included in your budget. And your budget is typically broken out with those things that are necessary. And I know Leroy is going to be sending out just an example of what a budget looks like. But, you start with, what is my income?
yeah,
That's your income source.
yeah,
Great. You can see it on the screen. And then what are the things that you are paying? What are your monthly expenses? So again, your mortgage or your rent, your utilities, other necessities like food and groceries. You may have childcare, life insurance. That's really important. And we'll touch on that later.
yeah,
What about your auto? How much is your car note? Is it paid for? What about the insurance for your car? What about those miscellaneous items that no one really wants to talk about, like your clothing?
yeah, yeah,
Come on, people. We dine out a lot, we shop a lot, and most important, what are our tithes and offerings? That is part of your budget that should be included every month. And so once you have your income, you want to take out, all of your taxes, maybe your contributions that you're paying to your 401k and things like that. And then you take out all of those expenses, your tithes, your offerings, all of your expenses, all of your miscellaneous stuff that you probably hadn't tracked. And then whatever you're left with, that becomes your monthly discretionary income or your shortfall. And so
yeah,
that's why it's important to start with the budget. You
yeah,
cannot really plan for anything financial unless you have that budget. And if you do plan for things financially without knowing your state, you tend to make those horrible mistakes like overspending, continuing to be in debt because you really don't know your state. So you just continue to, use your masters of Visa and masters of American Express
yeah.
to suffice for your monthly income. And so that's why I say you always need to start with a budget to know kind of where your state is.
Yeah, and Toni, can you talk about? I know for me, and you telling the truth, I didn't realize how much money I was spending on going out to eat
Mhm.
and the frivolous things like clothing or so. I don't know if you can just touch on that a little more because people do not realize that it's the little things that kind of get you. You know, when you start
Yeah.
going back to your account and start looking at things, it's like, oh, I didn't realize I was spending that much on these items.
That is so true. It's those little things like those little habits, and I would tell you, I used to be addicted to shopping. When I
Yeah,
first got out of college, and I moved to Chicago, and I saw all of these magnificent stores, and I made a good salary, and I said, now I can just buy whatever I want, you
right,
know.
right,
Then they give you credit cards, and then
right.
it's like, oh my god, I can even buy what I really can't afford, and you just go on this spending spree, and you don't really know what you're spending. And so the Lord allowed me to go through this wilderness moment, and I took a sabbatical of 1 year. I
Yeah,
did not go shopping, and I did not do any of that. And what I realized is, wow, I saved a lot of money because
yeah,
I didn't do those things. And the problem that we have, though, we don't track that. We don't track what we're spending on those frivolous things like clothing and dining out, and
yeah,
all of your technical things like how much do you really spend on apps, and even during this
yeah,
pandemic, how much have you spent online
yeah,
because you're bored and you're at home, things are closed, so you find yourself at night sometimes just ordering online. Oh, I'm gonna get this. How much are you spending on Amazon?
yeah,
Do you know what that number is? And so the problem that I see is that we don't know that number, Leroy. We don't know
yeah,
how much we're really spending on clothing, on those miscellaneous things. Women, our hair. What is in our budget for our hair?
yeah,
Our makeup, our things like that. Is there a budget for that? And so I think the most important thing is, and this is my philosophy, my money never tells me what I can spend.
yeah, yeah.
I tell my money what I'm going to do with the money.
No, that's
So my
good. Yeah,
money is not my master. I'm the master of the money. And
that's
so I know exactly how much I'm going to spend a year for clothing, for my kids, for my hair, for all of that. So when you have, and budgets are so, budget is freedom. Because if I know I have this amount of money that is below my means that I
yeah,
can spend per year on clothing or my hair or vacation, I divide that by 12 months, or for vacation by 2 or 3. And then I say, hey, I'm kind of getting over on my number. I can't do that because I know what the number is. So the
right,
key thing is to know what that number is for you
right.
and track.
And that's the key, tracking it, because I know for me, I'll be like, all right, what's $10? $10 ain't nothing. $20 not here, and so by the time the end of the month came, those $20, those $10 add up, and they could have went to a better resource. So I kind of want to talk about that today. Like, okay, so we're balancing our budgets. We actually are being disciplined. That's the whole thing. We being
Yeah.
disciplined and we sticking to our budget. With the extra income that we have coming in, or not income, but the extra resources that we now have since we're not spending, what kind of things should we be doing or putting that money towards?
So that is a great question. And so once you have your budget and you have a surplus, there are foundational things that we should have in place. One is an emergency savings. Okay. So we need to strive for 6 to 12 months of emergency savings. That's so important. That's so key. And that is really, truly foundational. And so a lot of times when people want to invest with me, I ask, do you have an emergency fund? If they say not really, I say, okay, that before we're going to
Yeah,
invest, we're
yeah,
going to build that emergency
yeah,
fund because you're not ready. You're not ready to invest. Because what typically will happen is if you start investing prematurely and you don't have an emergency fund, you're going to call me and say, oh, you know what? I need that money now. And
yeah,
you could suffer a loss by that. So you have to build up the house properly. The foundation is just as important as any part of the house. So foundationally, you need to have that extra money to build up your savings account. Okay. And
Can I
once you
stop you
have,
before you go further? Because I,
yeah,
I really want people to understand this emergency fund. And those who are watching, please do a watch party, please. I'll share this with individuals and ask you questions as we go along. But the emergency fund, what should the emergency fund actually cover?
Mm, yeah. So an emergency fund should typically cover, so going back to that budget, the
Yeah,
B word
yeah.
that no one wants to talk about.
It's a bad
Um,
word.
so going back to the B word,
Yeah.
so it needs to contain whatever your expenses are on your budget. We need to say that number times 6.
Okay.
Okay. The only thing you would exclude from that. So, for example, if you don't have income,
Mhm.
you probably cannot tithe because you have no income.
Right.
That will come out of your expenses. Okay.
Yeah.
Some of those things that are in your miscellaneous category, like, shopping or anything like that, that comes out because that's not a necessity. So your emergency fund should really be those necessities in your budget: your mortgage, your car payment, your insurance, all of those
Yeah.
things that are necessities
Yep.
times 6 or 12 months should be what you should strive for in your emergency fund.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Once you have your emergency fund, you need to, if you have extra money, is your retirement intact? Like, do I have enough to retire and live off of until age 90? Okay. That is the goal for retirement. So you have to ask yourself, am I saving enough towards retirement? And if you're not, you need to take all the surplus that you can and put towards your retirement. Because the one thing about it, I get this a lot, like, well, what about my kids?
Yeah.
I need to save for their education. I get that. But here's the deal: your kids can get a loan, your kids can work, your kids can do a lot to go to school, your kids could get scholarships. When you want to retire, there is no loan program for you.
Yeah.
You can't go and say, I need a loan to suffice for retirement. So, my thought is retirement is key. So, whenever you have extra and you have your emergency fund, you should be funding your retirement so that one day you can retire, because I don't think people want to work for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
But you cannot also hold on to a dream that is not real when you're not planning towards it.
Yeah.
Okay. So if your desire is to retire at 60, are you doing enough to do that? And
Right.
so that's why I say most people are not. And so that's why after you build that fund for emergencies, you want to build on your retirement.
So somebody did ask a question in terms of what's a good age or what's the age to consider retiring?
So I get that a lot. It's not, that is that's a great question. But let me
Yeah.
say, it's not a one size fits all.
Got
It's not. So it depends on your individual situation. And so a lot of times when I get, my practice is pretty much referral based, and I'll get one of my clients' friends and they'll say, I want what you gave them. Well, I don't know if you need what I gave them. Let's look
right.
at your situation. And no one situation is really the same.
Yeah.
And depending on how you want to live in retirement and how much you've saved already is going to depend when you can retire. So to me, it's not the matter of when do you think I should retire? It's a matter of, can you retire?
Right.
Do you
Right.
have enough to
Right.
retire? That is the key thing. So it's not really an age to retire. It's more of, can I afford to retire? And if so, when can I retire?
Yeah. Yeah. And matter of fact, I've been talking to a couple of people about retirement lately, in their situations, and I've noticed that in some marriages that there's
Mhm.
only one person saving for retirement. Is that
Mhm.
a good practice or a bad practice?
So typically, that's, unless the one spouse have saved enough for both of them to live off of in retirement, that's fine. We don't see that a lot, right? So
Right.
typically in today's time, it takes two people to really fund a household. Okay. There are
Right.
some people that can, only one spouse could fund it and everything is great, and they can also plan for retirement. That's fine. But typically, you need both people to contribute to a retirement plan. That is so important. And so you can do that. That's why you have individual retirement accounts. They
Right.
are not jointly owned assets. They're primarily for one person. So when you have the option to have two of those, you're
Yeah.
doubling your money. And so if you could strive for two people for retirement, that's a really golden opportunity. You should definitely be doing that, unless your spouse is just overly loaded and you really don't have to. But again, if you're overly loaded, the lifestyle that you're living today is probably what you're going to want to live for in retirement. So even if you have a lot of money already, in retirement, your income ceases. So that spouse that's making all the money right now and saving, will there be enough to sustain you to age 90, both of you?
Right. 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 Right.
So
Right.
that's so important. And that is why you need to have a strategy. That is why you need to meet with a financial advisor to make sure that you have a strategy in place to see, is this going to be enough based on the kind of life I want to live in retirement?
Yeah, and people got to change their mindset, Tony, because a lot of people really don't want nobody telling them what to do with their money and how to do this and that. But you, the Bible always talks about seeking wise counsel,
So,
and
amen.
I personally believe that there are gifts and talents when it comes to money, when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to what to do with it, how to invest it. And, if you find that right one, that right person that can advise you, it can set your life up for success,
Success.
for happiness in terms of being able to be financially set free. So
Mm-hmm.
people really need to change that mindset and really allow themselves to be opened up to
Yeah.
somebody tell them how to control their finances, or what's the best practices.
That is such a great point, and I'm amazed every day that we go to our doctors because we want to
Yeah,
be in good health.
yeah,
So we're going to do that. We will go to an insurance agency because that's, as our demographic, that's really all that we've seen. I mean,
yeah.
we are accustomed to the insurance person coming to our home. And so that's the only thing that we have seen as some type of investment or some
Right.
type of savings. But we have never really seen conversations at the dinner table about, you know what, I want to retire one day, Dad. What should I be doing?
Yeah, yeah, you're
Because
right.
unfortunately, our demographic has been on survival mode. I want to make sure that my family is taken care of today, and that my kids can go off to college and their life can be better than mine, because that's all we knew back then. But now the tide has changed,
Yeah,
and we make more money than we ever have as a demographic.
yeah,
However, our net worth continues to widen compared to Caucasians. Why
yeah.
is that? Because although we make more, like you said, we don't go to see people about our money. How do I
Right,
build this?
right,
I
right.
take this, and it's a biblical principle. When the parable about the talents,
Yeah,
he gave one, five, three, and one,
yeah,
and the one that had the one, because he was without understanding, and he took what he had, and this is us. Well, this is all I have, and I'm not going to lose it because we're
right.
without
You got a
knowledge.
whole.
Yeah,
Right,
we
right.
don't understand. So we're going to take that and we're going to put it under the mattress.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
The Bible says, not, this is God's words.
yeah.
This is not my words. The Bible says, you wicked and you're foolish when you do that. I
That's
mean, and
right.
I even
That's
prayed
right.
about that. I'm like, God, that is so strong to say that.
Right.
Like that, wicked,
Wicked, right?
wicked. I mean,
That's right.
again,
Yeah,
that is why investing is so important.
yeah,
God says that when you don't do that, when you take what I've blessed you with and you go and bury it and you leave it in cash,
yeah,
he said that's wicked and that's foolish. But the people that took their talents, whatever they were blessed with,
yeah.
and they went into Wall Street and they said, well, I here's this, and got interest on it. Oh wow, that is amazing. I'm going to give you more. And
Right.
so we're getting more because we're investing.
That's right. That's right.
Investing produces more. When
Right.
we stay at home because we don't know about this, and no, I'm just going to hold on to my money, all these conspiracy theories, I'm going to lose everything.
Right.
Um, God is that's wicked, that's foolish.
That's right. That's right. And it's all through Ecclesiastics, and it talks about investing and all this kind of stuff. And we have to get out that mindset of just holding on. We have to put our money and make our money work for us. And that's
We
the
do.
and then that's the key. So go ahead. Go ahead. You're gonna say something.
And I also, when we talk about this, I want to talk about another topic.
Yeah.
The get rich quick schemes. Okay.
Yes. I was gonna ask you about that.
Yes, I
Because
know.
there's a lot of that going on right now. It's getting
It's
real
a
big,
lot.
especially in our culture. It's getting real big. But go ahead.
It is. So I'm just gonna. I'll say this: if anything seems too good to be true, it probably is,
Right.
because the susu, is it the susu, the
Yeah.
family blessing circles, all of those things, that is not real. Okay, that is a very speculative investment, and it's borderline illegal as well. So you
Yeah.
cannot get on these get rid. It's kind of like playing the lottery. You can't get on these get rich quick schemes in life. You have to work hard,
Yeah.
and you have to save. That is a biblical principle. There is nowhere in the Bible where God is saying, okay, this is what I want you to do. If you just sow 500, I'm going to give
Yeah.
you 3,500.
Right.
That is
Make this
ridiculous. I
flower.
mean,
No.
yeah, yeah, you got to make. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that is not. See, you got to sow in good ground.
That's
That
right.
is not good ground. And
That's,
so I always tell people, if it seems too good to be true,
that's
it
right.
probably is. And
And it don't
actually,
last. It doesn't
it does
last.
not last.
Yeah.
And not only that, you are depending on others for your success.
Yeah.
If others don't bring in others, you're not successful.
Right. Right. Right.
So why don't you create and build your own empire?
Right.
Why don't
Yeah, I
you
like
do
that.
that along,
Yeah.
partner with God,
Yeah.
build your own empire?
Yeah.
No one can take it from, and you're not dependent on what they do.
I like
Okay,
that.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
we can't refuse to do the basic principles
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
a get rich quick scheme, because it's never going to work. You're going to lose.
I agree with
You're
that. I agree with that because that's right now that's big in our culture, and it's I don't know where it just all of a sudden is blowing up. And
yeah,
I want to go back to what you was talking about, even with uh, other cultures, where they sat around the table and they had those conversations. I remember a conversation I was having with somebody of another race, and they was telling me, and you tell me what you think about this. And they would tell me they sat around the table with their parents. Their parents said to them, "Look, I need you to take an insurance policy out on me so that
hmm
you will have a legacy of success off of my life." Now, what is your opinion on children taking insurance policies out on their parents? Not meaning you want them to pass away or
right,
anything, but the
right.
benefits that come from that.
That is awesome. I mean, that is what I do. That is what we should be doing.
Yeah.
So transfer of wealth. That's called generational transfer of wealth. If you look at the other races, that is what they've done. When people are born, they are automatically given wealth. Why is that? Because whenever someone dies, they have a great tax-free benefit that passes on to their kids.
Right,
We
right.
don't, and here's the problem. We tried to do that as a people. My grandmother had a life insurance policy. The problem is we have the wrong type of life insurance policies.
Yeah.
So we have to, my clients come to me because I don't just sell insurance, and I can vet insurance very well. Whereas if you go to an insurance agency, that's all they sell, regardless of how good a policy may or may not be, they're going to sell it to you.
Right,
And
right,
so
right.
when I add policies, I find that they're going to lapse. People are like, no, this is supposed to be for, no, it's going to lapse.
Yeah.
You didn't read all the contract, it's going to lapse. So I think that is a great strategy. We just have to get the right type of policies, but we should be doing that. That is a way that we can, mitigate the gap, the wealth gap.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
We should all have a fully funded policies for our kids. When I die and go and see the good Lord, Kennedy and Chloe will be blessed
Yeah.
beyond measure for
Yeah.
a very expensive price that I'm paying today.
You're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very inexpensive. That is the least expensive asset class that you can actually be in, is to
Yeah.
fund money for your kids and grandkids while you're young.
Yeah.
It's very expensive.
Yeah.
And it's tax free for them.
Yeah.
And now that the laws have changed under the current administration, you know, when you pass on retirement assets, there was a time where, you know, if you just took the RMD, which is the required minimum distribution for
Yeah.
people over 70 have, it's a little calculation that if I were to die and my kids inherited my traditional IRA account,
Yeah.
they could just take that amount all of their lives. They don't have to take all of the money because you'll have a big tax consequence.
Right.
Well, that's gone away. So what that means is now whatever they inherit within 5 years, all of that has to be pulled down. So it's going to be taxed pretty heavily up front. So incorporating a tax-free weapon is
Yeah.
going to be powerful right now
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
now here's all this wealth and it's you don't have to give any to the government. And why don't when you inherit that you invest it?
Yeah.
I mean, $1 million in 10 years, that's going to be at minimum about 2 million.
Yeah.
So you can see the dynamic of wealth transfer if we do it the right way. It's
Yeah.
very inexpensive.
Absolutely.
Very
Absolutely. Absolutely.
inexpensive.
So y'all can see why I got Toni as my financial advisor. She's very wise in what she what she does. But please ask your questions and like I said, please do a watch party and share this. But there was a question that came up from Vanilla Taylor. She said, is long-term care insurance important?
Oh, that's a good one. Yes. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah.
Long-term care is very important, and you want to make sure you incorporate that in your retirement strategy because about 75% of people in retirement will need access to long-term care. And what long-term care is you get sick and you need someone to take care of you at home because most people do not want to go to a nursing home.
Right.
Most people stay at home as long as they can for care. And so what that means is long-term care will come into place. Most people think that Medicare will pay for that. That's not true. So you need to have a long-term care policy to take care of that because if you don't, what happens is the money that you thought you were going to legacy to your kids or your grandkids, that's going to be dwindled down. Long-term care is about $70,000 to $80,000 a year. Okay. So we plan for that, you know, and I typically use life insurance to plan for it because when you have a traditional long-term care policy, they can go up on your premiums at their discretion. Okay.
Yeah.
So I had clients in 2011 where their premiums have gone up by almost 500%. And so we have transitioned them into life insurance policies with the long-term care rider. And what that means is during their retirement, I can control what they're spending. I know the premium is never going to go up. And we know the exact dollar amount that they will have for long-term care expenses. And I tell people that long-term care is just expensive. So what we do is we use that as supplemental to their retirement assets. Sometimes it's enough, but sometimes it's not. So you never want to try to get too much of that because it's really expensive. So you definitely need that in your retirement strategy. So that's a great question.
Yeah, that's a great question. We had another question that came through from Paul. It says, are target date retirement funds and your 401k good for people who have a low risk tolerance?
So that's a great question. And I like target date funds, regardless of what type of risk tolerance you actually have. I believe that those were really good because what happens in your 401k is that you don't really have an advisor to tell you really where to put your money. And so they came up with these target funds to make sure, depending on your risk tolerance, that you have the right amount of mixture in your portfolio. So the right amount of bonds, which are low risk investments, and the right amount of stocks, which are the higher risk, and even the type of stocks. And so I actually like the target date funds, especially as a base. If you don't have a financial planner, having a target date fund is the next best thing in your 401k.
Oh, that's great. That's great. That's great. So we have one of my favorite people here. I see they logged on to come on live. Let's see what she has to say. Hey, Alzenia, how you doing?
Bye. I did not mean to come. You know I need help with technology. I don't know why you're doing this to me. But my question is, if I can be, see, I'm not even in the picture. Thank you so much, Miss Toni.
You're
For
welcome.
people who are mentally ill, and this is, bare on my soul for people who can see. For people who are mentally ill, you can't get life insurance because you're not a good risk. And it's very difficult to find that with companies. So in terms of, for me, is it a good idea that I have a power of attorney so that if anything does transpire, my power of attorney can step in and make sure that things continue to flow in terms of the bill payment and things of that nature. But what can I do in order to help leave something behind for my family members when it's very difficult for me to get anything?
Okay, thank you for your question. That's a really great question. And
It is?
we
Okay, thank you.
yes, that's a great question.
It is.
So when we cannot qualify for insurance, and again, that's why it's so important to get it as early as you can, because we don't know what will happen physically. But in the cases where you cannot, if you're uninsurable, the next best thing is to make sure that you are saving as much as you can towards your retirement or your legacy. So you do that with your discretionary income. So the money you have left after your expenses are met, you take that money and you pour that into a retirement vehicle or a brokerage account, just to make that money grow for your legacy. So that's really important. Another part of your question is really relating to estate planning, and that is really important. So there are some documents that everyone needs to have, regardless of, anything. You need to have a power of attorney in place so that they can handle the affairs of your finances as well as your health. That is so important because typically, if you wait too long, especially in mental illnesses, at that point, you can't get a power of attorney or any type of directives. So it's important to get all of that done, at least, and review it every 5 years. So having, the power of attorneys, and when I did my estate, I didn't want the burden of my kids to have to make decisions for me. Okay.
Right.
So I don't want them to think about, oh my God, if mom is on, some type of ventilator and she's brain dead, do I have to make that decision to pull the plug? No, I already made that decision. It's all in my healthcare directive.
All right.
And so all of those documents, your power of attorneys, your wills, all of your estate planning documents is so important and key. And when you have those, making sure that people know where the documents are. That's important because a lot of times, when people pass, it's like, I know they had a will, but where is it? And so making sure that there are key people in your life, your trusted contacts that know where your documents are once you have those done. Did that answer your question?
I'm sorry?
Did that answer your question?
Did that answer your question?
Oh, yes. And I have just another brief one because I'm with Pastor on a lot of people have started, I call them pyramid type businesses. They're pyramid schemes. You do this and you got to bring in this many people so that you go up to this level. And they'll say they're the executive director, and I'm asking myself, the executive director of what? No, it'll say, diamond level, and I'm like, oh, what? So, but what I'm trying to do is that I have a home business, but I need to get it established. I have clientele, and I have a designated workspace. So what I'm trying to figure, and I figured out a formula for my pricing of my garments. But what I wanted to know is what else do I need to do to establish this legally as a home business?
Okay, so I think what I would advise you to do as far as establishing a home-based business is really to work with an attorney to make
Okay.
sure that the type of business, whether it should be an LLC, whether it should be a sole proprietorship, all of those things are legal things that an attorney will be best able to help you with.
Okay.
And also, you can look at SBA. SBA has consultants that can help you, and also the Women's Center at the University of Hartford. They
Okay.
can help you with that research also.
Very good, because I'm an alum of that, so that's a very
Yeah.
good thing to know.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, you're very welcome. I don't miss a series.
We appreciate it. Love you.
I love you back, and you'll have to show me how to go from your YouTube to go pick up the previous series.
All
Because
right.
sometimes
We'll do
you
that.
say things that are so poignant, and it's like, I really want to write that down.
I appreciate it. I appreciate
Okay.
it. All right. We'll talk to you later. So, Tony, there was a question that came across also, private question here. It says, "Good morning. My husband passed away 3 years prior. The Lord permits, I'm going to be at the age of collecting widow benefits from his Social Security. I do work at this time. If I do collect those benefits, should I invest those funds, or is it better to deposit them in my savings account?"
Can you ask what age she is? Is she taking early or he taking early Social Security, or are they at the full age of retirement based on Social Security?
Let me see if they respond. While we wait for that, yeah, they haven't responded yet. I'm not sure what age they are.
Because the reason why I asked that is depending on when you collect Social Security is
Yeah.
going to determine how much money you can make in the workplace. So that's important that you
Okay.
understand the dynamics of Social Security, because there are some limitations and things of that nature. So prior to collecting, you need to make sure that you number one can, number two, it's not a detriment to your current income.
Yeah.
Because if you go over a certain amount in income, you're going to have a 50% penalty in your benefits, meaning that they're going to take away $1 for every $2 that you're over. I think this year is $34,000 for joint. Single, I think it's around 19,000. So if you
she
exceed,
she just texted me back, said I'm about to be 62.
okay, so that's considered early.
Yeah.
So it's important that she looks at her complete financial picture to see if what if I waited? Am I going to need more income later? Because 62 is early retirement. Also, if you're currently still working, you cannot make a certain amount once you start taking Social Security. So it's important to make sure that you understand kind of what that means when you actually start Social Security. And if it's a situation where you can and you're fine with it and you have extra money and you don't need it, make sure you foundationally have an emergency fund. And then after that, build upon your wealth by investing.
Okay, good. That's good. So we have somebody else who's trying to come on, Transformation Box. Hello, how are you? I think they have their phone muted. Hello, guest, Transformation Boss. Hello.
Having a hard time here, so I'm not sure if it's my connection. My apologies. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. So my question is, hi everybody, good afternoon. Thanks for doing this. My question is for kids that are going away to college and obviously, trying to build, how do you build children? I know you can start really early and they're told there are ways for them to go ahead and build their credit early. We can start giving them tools and tips to build their credit. So as they go away to school, just knowing how to use credit appropriately and using that, saving their money, like you said, budgeting and things like that. But how do you help them to build credit?
So that's a
What are
great
some
question.
good tips?
So first of all, let me just preface this by saying debt is a yoke and it's a burden. Okay. You need credit for good things like a home or if you need to buy your first auto and things like that. So building your credit is important. However, we don't want to build it prematurely because you got to think about it. Kids, they're kids. And so my school of thought on this is if you want to train your kids on how to be fiscal responsibility, then you need to make sure that you start with a debit card. Don't give them credit. See if they can manage just a simple checking account. You can give them a debit card. If they can balance that, especially throughout college, have them to be fiscal responsible before they start into the credit world. My thought is my kids will not get credit until they have a earned income, okay? Because they have to be able to pay for credit. And so I think we can do that sometimes prematurely. I know when I got my first credit card, it was in college. I was not responsible. I didn't even know what the credit really meant. I didn't know it was going to follow me for the rest of my life. So we get credit and then we don't pay it because we're broke in college, right? So you just don't want your kids to go through that. And number two, you don't want to bail them out. So if they run up a credit card because you want their credit to be good and they go to you to say, oh my God, Mom, I don't have the money to pay this off, and you pay it, you're not helping them to really fish. You're giving them fish, right?
Yeah.
So it's important that we don't prematurely give our kids credit. Credit is great, but they don't need it that young. They need, if you want to teach fiscal responsibility to the younger generation, make sure they know how to balance a budget. Make sure they can balance their checking account to their budget. Can they reconcile the two? If they like plastic, give them a debit card because they too have to reconcile that. When you give them credit too young, they're going to buy stuff that they don't need. They're not going to have the money to pay it off. Then they're going to come to you. And because you love them and you don't want their credit messed up, you're going to bail them out. So you don't want to even start that. And so my school of thought is wait until they have income, because they can't buy a house without income anyway.
Yeah.
They don't really need the credit.
So Tony, let me ask you this, because I noticed that a lot of kids now are using the Cash App and managed by their parents. Is that a good way to help them manage money, or you give them a certain percentage? I mean, not a certain percent, but a certain amount each month or each week to help balance, get them used to dealing with a debit card or some kind of transaction?
Yeah. So, and correct me if I'm wrong. Cash App so is it that I know I use it to pay things, but for kids, is it something that you're utilizing where they can get a debit card linked to their Cash App account?
Yeah. So Cash App actually has a debit card you can utilize, and
it's not a credit card, right?
It's not a credit card, but you just upload the funds, and then when it goes out, it goes out.
Yeah, I think that's great because number one, you're teaching them responsibility. You're teaching them you have this amount of money. You have to make a budget for it. If you run out, you just ran out.
Yeah.
So that's a good way to do it. You don't have to use the bank if you could use an app that can do the same thing.
Yeah.
But the main thing is making sure that they're responsible and they're creating budgets early on in life. And I think when kids create a budget early on, that's you're planting that seed, and they will continue to do that for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's a good way to do it.
So somebody did send me a question. It's an interesting question. They was talking about how they are older now. They have acquired a lot of investments. They have acquired. They said they had a home and all that kind of good stuff, and they are about to get married. So saying, so how do they join those accounts where he has similar but not as much? So how do they join those accounts, and what's the practice of doing that?
Okay,
so funny look on your face, Tony.
that's tricky. That's tricky, okay? Because I mean, gosh, you can do it different ways. Okay, you can do it different ways, but I personally feel, when you are older and you're going into like another marriage and you've already built up assets and things, and especially if you have kids, that's the key thing too.
Yep.
When kids are involved, it's a little bit different than when kids are not involved. Okay, because that's where inheritance come in at. And so for
Right.
example, so I was married 14 years and I'm divorced now. So if I were to get married again, it's going to be important that when I combine assets, that my legacy to my kids is still going to be intact regardless of my marriage. And
Right.
so a lot of times when you're joining assets, I tell people, join your money. Don't join the assets.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Especially when you have kids. So, you're going to join monies, your income, because you're married and it's y'all's anyway, right?
Right. Right.
But to be honest, when you have assets and things like that, and I deal with a lot of divorce cases in my practice, it gets really messy. It can get, people start hating each other, and you don't
Yeah.
want that. The thing to do is to say with your fiance, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is what I built along the way prior to us getting married. And so I am going to make sure that this part of our balance sheet goes to my kids. Okay. And what you have, it can go to your kids as well. What we build together is going to go to each other.
Yeah.
That's
And that
what
makes
it is.
sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
And some people that don't have kids are like, I love my boo. You can have it. When I die, it's
Right.
yours. That's fine too.
Right.
That's, you're married, and I've seen that too, where, there are no kids, or the kids are grown and they don't need the money. And they're like, y'all enjoy life. Leave it to your new spouse. I don't care. So I think the most important thing is having the conversation.
Yeah.
Land this is where we are.
Yeah.
And this is where we want to be. What do we need to do with this? So I think having the conversation and deciding on what is the best way to do this is important, because a lot of times you may want to buy another house. Maybe you
Yeah.
use some of those assets that you all both had prior to, buy you another house, and what's left, you legacy off the way you want it. So it's so many different scenarios.
Yeah.
You just
That's what I
have
was
to
gonna say. It's not one roadmap to that
It's
decision.
not.
And it really depends on the couple who's getting married. But I agree with you in terms of making sure that each set of kids are taken care of, but every situation is totally different.
It's
So
so
it's
different.
really, yeah, it's really talking through that, and even talking through that even during your counseling and all those things, just to make sure you have all those components together before you get married, because
Yeah,
that's one of the leading causes of divorce.
it is. I was going to mention that money is, you see people that they become different people.
Yeah, it's a
And
whole
it's like,
different animal.
I'm like, okay, okay, and so
Right.
I tell people I'm a financial advisor, but I'm also an unlicensed psychologist as
Right.
well. Because you deal with those kind of issues, and you
Yeah.
love this couple, and when you see someone goes through a divorce and they didn't have stuff in place, or
Yeah.
it can be very difficult. And so, like, to your point, Leroy, when you have those conversations and get everything done prior to tying a knot,
Yeah.
it's just so much peace. It's joyous, and you can just build together after that. So that's
And that's,
important.
that's what it's about. I think it's important that people have to realize, I don't, whether you're single or whether you're getting in a relationship, whether you're in a relationship, this is a process of building and
Yeah.
process of changing your mindset to know that, okay, well, I have to discipline myself now so that things will get a little easier as time goes on. And it's all about starting now. And like Tony said, starting with that, making sure you have that emergency fund.
Mhm.
If you don't
Yeah.
put that in place, start there, and then we can go into investing and start building a legacy and wealth. And what we didn't talk about, I'm an executive pastor, so I have to talk about this in terms of, you know, there are plans out there. I don't know if you can talk about this real quick, Tony. And other cultures where they leave legacies to organizations such as churches and to some kind of legacy fund. So I don't know if you can speak on that a little bit.
That is a good point, and that is so important, because we have to be selfless, so I love my kids, but they're not inheriting everything, because there are some great pastors that I am going to make sure I sow into those good grounds. Organizations that I support, St. Jude, Children's Research Hospital, my sorority. Those are great organizations that build upon Black wealth and just do good things for the kingdom of God. And so we have literally have gone into churches just for life insurance, to make sure that people are leaving legacies not only to their kids but also to the church. I mean, your pastor feeds you daily, and even at death, the church, the movement of God should continue. You know, we should not be doing the work of the Lord. And so a good way to help build, even while you're on the streets of gold in heaven, make sure your legacy continues.
That's right.
I mean, because I don't want my funeral to be like, she was good and y'all forget about me.
Right.
I want to see Toni Polk on some, Family Life Center or something like that.
Well, you're not going to see it, but your kids will see it.
Exactly. And so our legacy lives on because she's still yet sowing from the grave. Your good work shall follow you. And so I think that's so important when we look at, white churches versus Black churches and why they have all this land and stuff like that.
They're paid.
Even their members, when they die, they inherit so much. So much. And so we cannot forget about, the kingdom, and insurance is a very good way to reposition your wealth to make sure that your churches still are intact, for generations to come. So that I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. And I think that's important that, legacy is what this is about. And the Bible talks about that all the time in terms of we are supposed to leave a legacy, not only for our children, but our children's children, and also, our community and those around us. And we are at our time, but Toni, I want to give you another 2, 3, 5 minutes just to if you want to say anything before we get off the air.
Well, I have enjoyed it, and my thing is, let's not be just hearers of God's words, okay? Because for so many times, and I go to tons of churches and I talk about money, and we hear and we have faith, but we sometimes we don't put our works to our faith. And so we don't really see the manifestations of wealth creation in our demographic, because we're just walking by faith. We're getting the works. And so I can sit and Leroy can have these wonderful meetings week after week, but until we become doers of God's words, and because once you learn, you have no excuse. You have no excuse not to execute at that point. And so once you understand and you have knowledge, you got to go ahead and, do what you need to do for your family, for your community, for your church. And so I think that is so important, because when I look at my life, and I do this every year, and I say, what did I write down? Did I accomplish it?
Yeah.
And if I didn't, why didn't I? Well, because I didn't do this. And it wasn't God's fault. It wasn't that I didn't have time. I just didn't make it a priority. Right. I had time. I just decided I just didn't do it. Right. So we have to be accountable. We have to stop blaming people. We have to stop blaming the government. We have to stop blaming whatever. We are now responsible for our wealth. And so we have to make the changes in our life. We have to stop being in debt, because that is slavery, that is bondage. We have to stop spending more than what we can afford. It's not about what you drive. It's not about, what you wear. It's not important. That's not wealth. That's being in debt a lot of times. And so I think it's important, and it's key that we have to get it together, people. I mean, that's just it. We have to, and I can talk to you until you're blue in the face, but until you decide that I want to make the change, you're going to remain the same. There's nothing I can do. I can talk all day because I love talking about money. Until you decide I'm going to change, you're going to remain the same. And you can't be mad when others exceed you. When God begins to use them, because they're doing what they're supposed to do.
Right.
They're doing what you cannot, because I've had even my family, like, you think, I don't think I'm like whatever. It's just that I made the sacrifices when you did. I'm
Right.
not going to be punished because of the sacrifice and for me doing what God instructed me to do and being a tither and sowing into good ground and being a good steward of what God has blessed me with by
Yeah.
not being in debt, by spending way low than what I can afford, by being a good
Right.
steward. And so I command the blessing.
Yeah.
I am blessed and I am unapologetic about it.
I know that's
I'm
right. I'm
not
with
gonna
you, Tony.
apologize.
I'm with you.
I'm not gonna. I used to because I'm like, well,
I'm
maybe
with
I should.
you.
No,
No.
I am blessed, and I'm gonna walk in my
Yeah.
greatness because God is good,
Because
and
that's the
He's
authority
still
He's given us to
doing
walk in. And that's the way we are
exactly,
supposed to walk. So I love
exactly.
it. I love it. So Tony, tell the people how they can get in touch with you, if they need to get in touch with you in terms of financial
Yeah.
or managing money or anything like that.
Yeah, so we can have a conversation. So you can dial my office number. Lexi will be happy to schedule a time for us to talk. And you can write down my number. It's 901-754-9947. And again, that's my office number. Feel free to call again 901-754-9947. And I hope this was some good information for you. I hope it blessed you in some kind of way. And again, I'm just excited that you invited me, Leroy.
So I'm glad you were able to come in, and of course, I'm gonna have you back again. And like I said, Tony is one of the smartest people I know in terms of this money and finances, and she's dealing with mine. So I'm not just talking about her. She's actually a part of my life in terms of finances. But I love Tony so much, and I just want to thank you for taking the time out to talk to the people about getting stronger and better through our finances. And of course, I'm gonna invite you back. So,
Thank you.
just want to ask everybody, please, like I said, share this, and keep it going. And we want to make everybody stronger and better through these next couple of weeks. Join us next week. We're gonna be talking about health and about this COVID situation. So I got a couple of people on here that's going to be talking about practical ways that we can stay healthy through all these times. So we're here every Thursday at 11 a.m. and we have some exciting topics coming up. And always remember, stay getting stronger and better. And make sure that you're doing everything that God has called you to do. So I love y'all, and I'll see y'all next week. God bless you.
Thanks. Bye.